Folks, welcome back. I have not filmed here in a while. I have not been to the office here. I haven't been here in a couple weeks, man, and I haven't think I've filmed here in probably a month or two, or maybe a couple months. Time flies. It's been tricky. But anyways, folks, today's conversation is a Magic the Gathering video. And this month's flavor of the month conversation by far is definitely, that all Magic product and the concept of keeping boxes and sealed product. Everything's going to zero. It's all dead. There's no opportunity. That is the hot flavor of the May of 2023. I apologize in advance. My voice is a little scratchy. My throat's a little scratchy, so I may have to pause and get a drink here and there. But we're going to do this video. It's interesting. So, always remember, folks, this channel is sponsored by you all and myself. I don't take any outside sponsors and the patrons, everything. I appreciate you guys. So, going into June 1st, we're going to have the, let's see, what are we doing here in the Rudy world? Obviously, March of the Machine draft boxes are going to be $89 shipped, and that should be available to patrons for many, many months. I don't think anything's falling off or changing. I know Jumpstart 2022, Kamigawa, and believe it or not, Infinity and Streets have been selling quite well. I don't think anything's really shifting or going out of print anytime soon. I think we got another month or so before we maybe have like a major shift, but so that's probably going to be a pretty hot thing. And no, folks, I'm not bamboozling you when I say it's 89. It's 89. There's no hidden fees. Everybody, I get so many questions. Rudy, what's the hidden shipping cost? Do you have an extra handling per box fee? I get so many questions about people asking, like nervous, like I'm going to charge, like when you send me a payment, I'm going to hold your boxes hostage until you send me an extra $30 for shipping or something. It's really weird. I'm assuming there's got to be some relevance to that of somebody out there. So let's talk about these boxes, okay? First, sit back. We're going to go down memory lane here, okay? So, folks, I went on YouTube in 2016. We're halfway through 2023. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Jesus. So we are approaching 8 years on YouTube and probably 3,000 to 4,000 videos. And I feel like nothing's really changed. That's the funniest part of this YouTube channel. The people who've been around a long time always joke on this channel that Rudy could always just re-upload the same video and change the name of the boxes or his haircut, and you wouldn't even know if it's a new video or old video. Like, there's been jokes about Rudy should delete his channel and then make a new Alpha Investments and start at the very beginning and just upload each video on a timer for the next 8 to 10 years and just disappear. And nobody would know the difference. The reason for this is because in 2016, when I started, the very first product I discussed with you all publicly, you can go back on this channel, was Khans of Tarkir, which, by the way, I still think Khans of Tarkir at like $230 to $250 a box shipped, I still think is a great deal. I'm going to shill for that. Although in today's standards, I only have like 100 boxes of it. So in today's modern Rudy standards of pump and dumping your stepsister, that's a pretty low number for me. But it's interesting how I still feel certain things have shifted. And then I remember the very first month we did Patreon in 2016, we did the Eldritch Moon for $79. Month 2, we did Return to Ravnica for $69. Month 3, I think we did Shadows over Innistrad for $79. And I think after that we did Conspiracy 1 for $69. And then I think after that we did we go into Battle for Zendikar or Fate Reforged? And, back then, I had the same conversations with viewers and you all in comment sections and everything about how, the easy money's been made. It's never going to be the same as it was, from Scars of Mirrodin. That era is over with. And while I do agree there are hard truths to that, it is not a black and white binary 1-0, coded answer of yes, no. It's not a simple, there is degrees and percentage changes. So, for example, saying to me in 2016 that, Rudy, buying Eldritch Moon from you for $79 was a terrible idea. I'm never going to do it. And, you should be banned from the United States for ruining card games and all this. And those individuals who were negative Debbie Downer Nancy's, they were correct with the respect that Eldritch Moon, Shadows of Innistrad, Conspiracy era products will never outperform the Scars of Mirrodin, Besieged, New Phyrexia, Innistrad era, because there were fundamental changes. But because the returns we all knew would be lower and less extreme, there was never a point in time where it didn't become worth it. And that's where the differences in the rate of change come in. If this was Wall Street and we were talking about options and derivatives, we would be talking about like the delta on an options contract, or a credit default swap, or some sort of hedge on interest rates or something. Or, the delta measures rate of change. And today's delta is a lot lower than 2016 Rudy delta. And 2016 Rudy delta is a lot lower than 2009 pre-YouTube Rudy delta. So the rate of change is continuing to erode away. But the rate of change will never reach zero or negative, because we live in a time in an economy that's built around inflationary pressures and inflationary wealth building. And I don't want to get into that, but some of you out there are going to know what I'm talking about. The point of everything from Federal Reserves to governments to money to all this crap is to moderate inflation around 2-3% a year. Now, obviously, as we all know, that usually never happens. Even when they say it's 2-3%, it's always like 5%. It always feels like more. But we're going to pretend for a moment they're not lying. And we have to make some basic assumptions, and that is that even though the rate of change in sealed product continues to erode in a negative direction, and the talking heads and morons of corporate Hasbro and Wizards continue to be ran like the South Park episode where they take the cock, the rooster, wait, a rooster is a cock? Where they take it and they chop its head off and it runs around on a twister map, and wherever the cock lands, that's how they make their decisions. That is really funny. I didn't plan this because, Chris Cox. So when the rooster, it's a South Park thing, Google it. And, but the thing is, just because a booster box from Scars of Mirrodin went from $80-$90 to $600, let's say. I don't know what it is today. It's probably back to $400 or $500 in the weak market. But let's say it went from $80 to $500-$600 range. That's some sort of outrageous 500-600% return in, I don't know what that is, 15 years, let's say. That's an extraordinarily above average rate of return. And I feel like even after the 2021 money machine went burr era, now that we've left that, I feel like people still don't understand what a respectable rate of return is. So for example, when we look at Wall Street, one of the reasons why large brokerage firms and investment firms and licensed financial advisors and registered reps and all these licensed people on Wall Street don't like to talk to broke people or poor people, to be very derogative in this video, is that they understand the mindset of a lower income individual or a lower net worth individual is going to be very different than the mindset of a 7, 8, 9 figure net worth individual. So let me give you all an example. 18-year-old Rudy, waiting tables or turning wrenches, trying to make his $200 paycheck a week, and I have one booster box of each Magic set from the last year or two, is going to view that Magic box's price very different than the person who's diversified with outrageous amounts of assets and inventory spread across the board. Because that individual is going to be used to all these different assets moving in different directions up and down throughout the years. But the individual who has the one booster box who paid $80, after 2 years, if that $80 booster box is still $80 or $90, or maybe he's down 10%, it's a $70. That individual is going to become very negative and quits very quickly, because that individual, on a larger scale, percentages, finance, and numbers become very, very fascinating, everybody. And I don't feel like that's something that's discussed enough in our society. On a small scale, what they call the retail investor or the individual Timmy or whatever you want to joke or say or terminology you want to apply to it, the person who has one booster box, and they bought it from Rudy. They were a Rudy patron for one day. They signed up, bought one booster box for $89. They even paid Rudy the $15 fee, and he got 12 of that $15 after fees. So Rudy made $3 whole off you. So let's say you got scammed for that $3 from me. Well, let's say you bought that on the brand new March of the Machine booster box that I'll be selling for $89 next month, or next month, I guess in a week or so, whenever you watch this. So let's say 12 months go by and your $90 box is still $90. You know, 105 online, but you will net 85.90 after fees, so you don't make anything. So after a year or so doing that, your perspective and attitude towards March of the Machine, Hasbro Wizards, towards myself, you buying that product, is going to start to become, I don't want to say jaded or negative, but it's going to be disappointing. It's going to feel diluted, and you're going to start questioning, because you're going to see other things online as people saying, oh, you got bamboozled. Rudy got you. Oh, I got you. And I'll get you again. You know who you are. But, overall, that individual is not going to feel like anything. They're not going to feel like they made a good decision or they were on a good path. And maybe that individual situation is very rough. And maybe that was a bad decision for them. Maybe they shouldn't have bought that. Maybe they bought it using debt. Maybe their personal life's volatile. Maybe they have no place to store it safely. Maybe there were other variables that, they did make a mistake and they should have never bought a box from me or their LGS or Papa Bezos Amazon store. So, the context around these conversations becomes very, very intricate. And the average individual is not going to be willing to attach a lot of context and details to these conversations. Because, again, it can spin the narrative very positively or negatively, depending on how we're going to talk about it. But I do the best I can to really share both sides and how to approach this stuff with the best level-headed attitude you can. And even then, it's difficult at times, because even I get excited or I get negative. I know I am human. I don't mean to blow you guys' minds out there. Remember, the other secret on this channel is Rudy is a human. I'm not a cat. In addition to that, Alpha Investments does try to turn a profit. We do try to make money. And I know that makes some of you uncomfortable. And I know some of you are very shocked by that. So back to this conversation. So again, if you have one booster box that you bought from me for $89, in a year from now, even if that box does really well, let's say you got lucky, it goes out of print early, something magical happens, and you hit it big, and that $90 box doubles to $180. So after shipping and fees, you net $160. You're still going to say, well, that's great and all, but I only made $80. And that's because scalability is a really big deal. If you're a patron, you'll notice that, when I talk about these things, whenever I usually talk about these conversations, I always do it on larger scales in things that make sense. Because people ask me all the time, here's a great point for you all. Rudy, why don't you do like a chaos sale to your patrons? Why don't you sell like a special thing where every patron gets like 3 booster packs of the last 12 sets? How cool would that be? Because at the end of the day, the premium price I would have to charge the patrons to open thousands of boxes, to hand make all these mix and match, and a lot of room for errors and mistakes, and then to ship these little packages, I don't think it's a good deal to the end consumer because of the premium price I would have to sell to versus the value the individual is getting. And I think that's why I don't like that concept. You all know I'm very against the concept of selling individual packs. Unless you're a local LGS and you own the store and you're selling in person to customers and those customers know who you are and they trust you that you're not scamming them on individual packs of Pokemon and you're taking out all the hits, or a Weiss and you took out the SP, or a Magic and you just hit a serialized card and you're selling the rest of the packs around it. Things like that. That's why I don't like the idea of selling loose packs. And then it also goes back to the point of this video. It's because it doesn't make financial sense for the average person to buy on a smaller scale paying premium prices. Because that individual is going to have to pretty much overpay for the smaller quantity. And I don't like that concept. And most of my patrons prefer just having good prices. There's probably about 10% of the patron base that I have that under any circumstance, they don't care how much they have to buy. They want the cheapest price possible, period. If they got to buy a 24-box collector master case, they want the cheapest price. And then I got other patrons that literally just said, Rudy, you know what? If TCG player is 180 plus tax, just give it to me for 175. And I'm happy with that. Just let me buy 1 or 2 boxes. So I have to design something where I can scale to both types of people. So the point of this video, so now that I've rambled all this stuff, the point is once again that it's the person in 2016 who bought an Eldritch Moon box, and the person who's buying boxes today, and the person who's buying boxes 15, 20 years ago. The rate of change is different. We cannot, in my opinion, the data shows very clearly that boxes do not appreciate at the same rate of change, the same delta, that they appreciated 15, 20 years ago. And I don't think anyone's arguing that. I think the argument now is that the boxes have no rate of change. The negative Nancy Power Ranger Optimus Prime army online is swung so extreme, they are pitching the concept that the rate of change of all sealed product from Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, and Mark Bottomwater's Fireside Chat with Dr. Cox and Cynthia and Wikipedia and Philip Morris, they are pitching that the delta is 0. There is no rate of change. There is no appreciation, and any appreciation there is going to be so little you aren't going to notice it, or you're wasting your time, especially after shipping and fees. And in order for that to be true, in my opinion, the rate of change would need to be under 5% a year on the long 10 plus year time frame for a sealed product of any collectible to no longer be worth it. Because I maintain the Rudy opinion now for, 8 years, that the goal was always 5 to 8% a year. Now, in a high interest rate environment, that could seem silly or stupid to some of you. But on a long enough time frame, those swings are still attractive if you can still average that. Similar to the S&P 500. The S&P 500, even after everything that's happened, 2008, 2020, 2022, bear markets, let's see here, 9/11, 2011, 2016, 2018, there's all these little dips there. In the 10, 20, 50 year time frame, the S&P 500 continues to average, I believe it's around 10%. Is it still around 10%? Somebody quote me below. What's the S&P average now still for the last 10, 20, 50 years? Is it still 10 to 12%? Because it was 10 to 13% for a while. Let's just call it 10. Let's be negative about it. That's still highly attractive. But again, there are times in economic turmoil that you can be down 20, 30, 40% before it recovers and changes. And to many people, that is an absolute full stop. No way I'm dealing with losing half my money and freaking out. And that's so back to the magic box. I'm sorry for this video. I'm all over the place, but it's a good conversation to have. So again, you buy a box of Kamigawa right now. You're a Rudy patron, and for 3 months, in the last 3 months, you bought a case of Kamigawa 1 month, a case of Streets of Barry Manilow, and you bought a case of Unfinity. Okay? And of which the internet states, and your local Backpage, MySpace, Discord group states, Facebook, whatever it is, whatever y'all are using, states very clearly these are all dead investments. They're not investments. These are dead magic products that are worthless. They're in landfills. They're all worthless, right? And, I just am not on board with this. Because at the lowest, most primitive level, if you buy a case of booster boxes and you pay $89 plus, the $1 patron fee, and then you get 2% cash back, whatever it comes out to be, $90 a box. So let's say you're in this thing. So to be worthwhile, over the next 5 years, that $90 box needs to essentially go from, after 1 year, you need to be able to sell it in net 94, 95. By the end of 2 years, you need to be able to sell it in net over 100, maybe 102. So at the end of 3 years, you got to be able to walk away in net, let's say 110. Maybe you have a good year. The end of 4 years, you got to be able to walk away in net maybe 116. And the end of 5 years, you got to be able to walk away with, let's call it 120, 125. I don't know, whatever. 120, 125. And, when I put the real number in front of people and I say, you want to tell me that in 5 years from now, what's the next set to go out of print? I guess Kamigawa, right? Yeah, Kamigawa Streets are the next two on the chopping block. So Kamigawa would be the oldest. That's Q1 of 2022, I think. Yeah. So Kamigawa's next, then Streets, and then I guess Boulder's Gate, if it's not already. I guess it's, well, whatever. And I look at people and I say, you genuinely believe that 5 years from today, which is going to be 2028, that a box of Kamigawa, you cannot sell a box of Kamigawa and walk away, net shipping and fees, $120. Does that not sound goofy to you all? Because to me, that sounds ridiculous. That you in 2028 or 7, whatever it is, in 5 years you can't like that's what I'm talking. Like, I feel like the mindset of all of us, especially in America, we are all so wired and negative with this political, the culture thing, the gender stuff, the politics, the religion stuff, these conversations. Everyone is just being trained and wired to pick these sides and hate everybody else and not be open to anyone else's opinion and not be willing to have a dialogue no matter how you feel about it. There's a lot of things I disagree with, but guess what? Some of the most popular podcasts and people I like to listen to are actually people I don't like, because I like to learn about what else is going on out there and be aware of their perspective. You don't have to agree with everyone. You don't have to like me. But if you can at least learn about what's going on and that there are people like Rudy out there, there are people the opposite of Rudy out there, I think that has more value than the actual investing or even making a few dollars on a booster box. Because the knowledge will carry you farther and open up doors for you to be able to navigate life, build more wealth, be happier, understand what makes you happy, and kind of navigate the career and the family life, the personal life, the money, your future generations of children or your family or parents or loved ones or coworkers. And, it's not just money, it's the ecosystem of life, So, I know I should sell a Get Rich Quick CD for $19.95 to you all. But, that's kind of my thing, because I guess it would be different. Like, imagine if back in 2016, if when I started this Patreon thing and I started on YouTube and this channel every video had a couple hundred views. What do you think would have been different if I made a couple videos, announced the Rudy Patreon thing and support me and help the channel grow? What would have happened if everybody did that? But everybody was like, he's right. The whole internet agreed. What if everybody was like, oh man, he's right. Man, does the Eldritch Moon, Shadows of Innistrad? Oh man, now wait, Scars of Mirrodin, Rudy says that $100 is underpriced. I'm sorry, $125 was underpriced. Steal of the Century. Maybe he's right. What would have happened if everybody had actually agreed? What kind of damage or impact would that have shifted? And I think about that and I'm like, well, maybe it really was never meant to go in that direction, because I don't know, it doesn't even feel real. Like, the idea of making videos now or talking about a Magic product or a Pokemon product or a Weiss or Flesh and Blood or Metazoo or a new sorcery or Disney Larcana, even talking about this stuff, like, if it wasn't met with all this skepticism and scam and memes, like, it wouldn't even feel real. I feel like I'd be in the Matrix or something, Boy, the weather's bad outside. Can you guys hear the thunder on the camera? Boy, the weather's bad. So, I'm going to stop rambling here pretty soon. I need to get a drink. My throat's getting a little dry. Giggity. I guess when I look at this stuff, I just have a hard time understanding. And I feel like a lot of this is people just focusing on the news cycles of Hasbro, Pinkerton's, Magic 30. And I can't blame people for being exposed to those events online and then not wanting to put money into a card game that they love that's backed by a bunch of morons. Like, I get that. That does make sense to me. But at the same time, this is a channel about money, finance, kind of quality of life, discussions, and how to approach things. We discuss the news, the swings of the market, when things are doing good, when things are doing bad. We cover all these ups and downs. And, along the way, we got the memes of pumps and dumps and stepsisters and Rudy the repairman and washer dryers and tacos and everything. But there's really a lot of, I guess, life advice or basic principles you could take away from this. And I guess the biggest principle of this YouTube channel after almost 8 years now, God, that's weird to say, is that, it's like Wall Street. It's just, most people are always wrong. And what's weird to me is you would assume in our society, if most people are always wrong, that majority of human meat popsicles, the majority mindset would eventually get tired of being wrong and realize maybe I should look at it differently. But they don't. And it's weird for me to talk about my own videos so much about how, because, I had a patron send me a message the other night. And he says, Rudy, have you seen Crimson Val set boxes? How there's almost none left and how the price is moving up over $100 a box? And I looked at that message from the patron and I was like, get out of here. Crimson Val set? And the individual's right. And then I looked up like Midnight Hunt and Crimson Draft. Same thing. Sure, there's a couple cheap sellers still dumping them off their books at losses, but overall the supply is very thin for a product that's only been out of print for like a year, if actually like 6-9 months. It just went out of print less than a year ago, I think. And I'm like, dude, that's really low. That's really low supply, And then I look at sets like Battle for Zendikar. I sold that to patrons for like 4 or 5 months at $79 shipped. And again, I'd say maybe, a good chunk bought, but not many. Most people just want to open and have fun. And I look online, in Battle for Zendikar, draft English boxes are like $250 a box. Like, it blows my mind that you could sell 2 boxes. A patron could sell 2 boxes, turn a profit after shipping and fees, and keep the other 4 for free. And that's only been like 5 years. And that's crazy. Because in that time, you can Google on YouTube of all the social, you could Google on Reddit, Google on Facebook, Google on MySpace, Google on YouPorn, Google on, wait, that's not, there's no charts there. Maybe there's charts. Google on Tinder, Backpage, Silk Road, Google Battle for Zendikar, sealed box investing, whatever, and you will see all these other YouTubers talking about printed to oblivion, talking about no opportunity. Don't buy what Rudy's dumping this month. Every month he's dumping something. Don't do this. Every single thing. And this was years ago. And the problem is, I always wonder how many people liked Battle for Zendikar. Because I did. How many people liked Battle for Zendikar? But they decided to not buy any of it. Not sit on it. Not enjoy it. Because they saw the online negativity of print to oblivion, the easy money's over, sealed products dead. And I'm like, it just keeps going and it never ends. And I continue to sit here and just watch the world unfold as we all march forward into another era of people saying the same thing. For those of you who haven't been around in a while, you should find there's Collector's Universe message board. I encourage you all to go back and Google Collector's Universe forums space Alpha Investments. And you will find when I actually was very young, almost 20 years ago now, and I was posting on this message board. And I was telling people, and I would encourage you all to Google this and look for yourself. It's still on the internet. And you can see Alpha Investments talking about me asking people questions about investing in sealed product and buying PSA 10 Alpha cards. And you should really check it out because the responses and the conversations were quite fascinating. And this was me talking about buying, Urza's boxes for a couple $100, buying, I think Stronghold boxes for $200. Buying, Mercadian Mass for $125. I don't know. It was just stupid stuff. And it's been almost 20 years. And I feel like I haven't changed at all. I'm still discussing and interested in the same thing. And yet the only thing that's changed is the people who watch my channel the cycle of people that leave with anger and disappointment, and the new people that come in that cycle, you know, that turning wheel, right? The wheel in the sky keeps on turning. That's what it feels like. I feel like what I talk about, my passion interest is exactly the same now for 20 years. I guess I've been pumping and dumping for 20 years, right? That's a good video. Have a good day.